Sergeant Seale. I've been asked by a lot of people to share what I saw and experienced with the Iraq War. I served for 4.5 years, and people don't generally see me as someone who is Army material. I was, though, for a while, but somehow, because of who I am and how I act, my experiences must be different. I'm more of a cynic than a patriot, more of a geek than a jock, more of a liberal than a conservative, and more of a scientist than a spiritualist. When I enlisted, I had nothing else going for me, so I figured, why not? For all I knew, back then, I was functionally immortal. Loss of loved ones, collapsing lifestyles, and serious bodily harm were problems that other people faced. My family was still alive and doing well in life, and to this day, still, I've never even broken a bone. My problems always worked themselves out. No matter what I did, I always avoided the worst possible outcomes. Basic training wasn't the easiest time for me. I felt like more of a runt compared to the other soldiers. Nevertheless, I was durable and tenacious. I wasn't Steve Rogers awaiting his inoculation of super soldier serum, but I wasn't Gomer Pyle either. The job I enlisted for was of combat engineer. Basically, we were the soldiers one rung above basic infantry in terms of additional skills training. We were given explosives training and skilled in the art of mine clearance. There's a lot of unspoken destruction in the engineer portion of that title. My squad leader, Staff Sergeant Stephen Seale, was a different breed of beast. He didn't believe that anyone was fucked up or unable. He believed all you had to do to succeed was try and put into practice the same level of integrity the Army preached about. He was a fair leader, a pillar of integrity with an ethical code that you just don't see that often without a side helping of hypocrisy. I quickly came to think of him as a mentor and thought the world of him. Initially, he couldn't stand me. That was his personal opinion, not his professional one, I believe. I was chosen to be his driver. During that time, we got to know each other as best as you can in the professional military mentor-mentee roles we found ourselves in. We came to get along very well in those long rides through Baghdad looking for roadside bombs, evildoers, and anything else we were tasked with locating. We found a shockingly large amount of roadside bombs for such a small team, and even though some of them had found us, we had suffered no casualties on our side. Despite that general sense of dread that had first seemed insurmountable and overwhelming during my initial arrival to the war zone, every day that followed had become like an odd vacation from the rest of the world. I came to think very highly of myself and of the team. It's almost like we were an indestructible and indispensable defensive force in the battlefield that helped to keep everyone else safe around us. I think it was around the time that my self-esteem had peaked, and it was suggested that I compete for the Soldier of the Month board. The board was essentially a solo trivia contest covering the comprehensive history of the Army, its origins, Army urban legends, lyrics to military songs, and the muzzle velocities of decommissioned weapons. It's a meat grinder for sure. You're fed in and lucky to get spit back out with a congratulatory handshake for not dishonoring the company. But doing well has its rewards. Most importantly, you can get promoted faster. This was the main selling point for me. Many soldiers that arrived at the same time as me had found themselves with sergeants that were less by the book and as a result were promoted quickly. My sergeant, Sergeant Seale, was exactly by the book, so the board was my best shot. I spent every moment of downtime I could preparing for the board at the internet cafe on base. Internet was always available, unless the base had suffered the loss of service member within a 24-hour window, which put us on a communications blackout. I studied really hard. I studied so hard that it made me physically sick. I found myself considering the possibilities of re-enlisting and making the Army a career. And if I was willing to pour this much effort into something, why not? In July of 2006, in the sweltering heat of Baghdad, I sat outside the boardroom waiting on my turn. Abruptly, the doors flew open and a young man came stumbling out of the boardroom backwards. In front of him, my company first sergeant throws the door shut and opens it wide again. It bangs against the side of the building quickly and slams shut behind him. The soldier stands trembling with his arms behind his back, hands clasped. The first sergeant begins barking obscenities at him, almost frothing at the mouth. The young soldier's eyes were white with fear. The sergeant's eyes red with rage. This kid was totally FUBAR. first sergeant then turns to me barking and pointing at, "This private does better than you. You are entering the world of shit, do you hear me?" Before swinging the door back open in the same fashion and re-entering the boardroom yelling, "Next." It's my turn, and to this day I can't remember for the life of me what happened in there. All I know by the end of it is, while I didn't win over a perfect score or win the board, what I did walk away with was the approval of my company first sergeant. Either he was completely blown away by my outperforming his expectations, or he just wanted to further embarrass the sad sap before me. He invited me back for the next board. My team and I celebrated me doing well, and Sergeant Seale casually drops a line about hoping I'll win next month so I can be promoted. The rest of July came and went with smattering of roadside bombs. Both recovered and set off. My team survived unharmed, as always. The day the next board arrived, my team had a mission. There was no way I could do both, so I was scrubbed from the mission roster. Some unlucky soldier volunteered for the mission, but I'm sure he was voluntold to do it. As I helped the team prepare for their mission, he grimaced at me. I can't blame him. As they get ready to leave, Sergeant Seale joked about having someone more fucked up than me drive him around, reminding me that if I win the board, I'll be promoted, and jokingly chastised me for not thanking him at all for any of this. "I'm just doing what I'm supposed to be doing, Sergeant Seale. You know I love you." He laughed at this and told me to get out of his face and to knock him dead. I've got a couple of hours to kill before doing the board. I get my clean uniform put together and watch some TV. It feels weird being the only one back while everyone else is out on a mission. I decide to kill the last hour at the internet cafe before the board. As soon as I sit down and attempt to log in, they all, "Blackout! Internet is off for 24 hours. The soldier next to me throws his mouse and says, "Someone's fucked up again." Turns to his friend and asks, "Who the fuck's outside the wire?" I don't say anything. I grab my weapon from the floor, sling it over my shoulder, and I run. I run as fast as possible. I get to the company command area, and my immediate supervisor is already there, surrounded by other members from my company. I approach cautiously. Sergeant Seale is dead. He sputtered out before weeping. He was crying. Nobody said anything. Everybody else cried. Everybody. I cried. Nobody cried more than me. I can't help but recount the events that led up to this moment in my life. If I had passed the board the first time, would I be here? Would Sergeant Seale have been alive if I had been there? I missed the bombs. I was invincible, right? I should have been there. No, I should have been. I deserve to live, but nobody deserves to die, right? Why the fuck did this have to happen to him? Why was he so violently and chaotically plucked out of all existence? He believed in me. He challenged me in a way that nobody else did. He had given me an overwhelming sense of self-confidence, and he was gone. Rage followed. A unique, lingering flavor of anger that never truly goes away once you've savored it. Something has to displace how bad you feel. If you can't feel positive, you need to feel positive about being so negative. War was real now. This wasn't an odd vacation anymore. The board was canceled, the grieving period short, missions soon resumed. I was different now. I felt hollow. Just as water conforms to the shape of an empty vessel, contempt soon filled me. In the weeks that followed, our team was restructured, and I had become a gunner under the supervision of my new squad leader, a shifty degenerate with most of the time served to assume the mantle of leadership. He thought of me as a weird oddball and socially inept. I couldn't stand him. It was like stories where the wonderful parents die and I was sent to go live with the wicked godparents. I became angrier with my current disposition. One day, when we were out in an unfamiliar area to us, a small bomb had gone off on the vehicle behind us, disabling its front tire, halting our convoy. We're immediately told to scan for secondary bombs and triggermen. I didn't see any secondary devices, but across the canal I see a lone and solitary man running for his life with a cell phone gripped in his hand. He's within line sight of the bomb. He's covered in dirt and looks scared out of his mind. He has the unfortunate characteristics of looking suspicious and the unfortunate timing of crossing paths with someone lusting after some form of revenge. This man is getting away. Rage tastes differently when you act on it. I disengage the safety and depress the trigger, opening fire. All my senses are on hyperdrive amidst the cacophony of chaos. I wanted to avenge the loss of my hero. I wanted to live and protect everyone around me because he was no longer there to do so. The man ran into some tall bushes, so I cannot be sure that I hit him, but with a couple hundred rounds at varying angles in his general direction, I can't be sure that he survived. Sometimes I wish I had that certainty. Sometimes I'm glad I don't. I like to tell people that shooting at this man bothered me. I'll even pretend that it does. The truth is, it doesn't. That was the day I resigned my interest in pursuing the Army as a career. The day I realized I'm not Army material.